right, so the topic today is about measuring processes and measuring the impact of change, considering that most of the time when mapping a process is to trigger a change in the organization, whether it's getting faster or maybe reducing costs, gaining efficiency or increasing the quality. Some people or some things will need to change. And it's typically at this stage that you realize, all right, we need to understand our processes, either the current version, the as is, what we call the as is plus, so the ideal as is, which is sort of to be sometimes, or like really redefining a process. When it comes to measuring the processes, we usually tend to talk about two different categories. We tend about either you're measuring the adherence to a process, which is are people following the process, or you're measuring the outcome. Does it produce the right results? And it's we find it very valuable to look at these both dimensions. They are intertwined. In an ideal world, you're following the process and you're delivering good results. But when measuring processes, it's quite a healthy conversation to think about these two dimensions, especially that it's not the same people that will have their focus on each of these dimensions. So a process owner will probably be interested in both. Are they both like, is it a chart that is right and up? A line manager will maybe be more interested. Is my team on a purely administrative way? Are they following the processes that they've been given? So a line manager may be more interested in the adherence, caricature. A change champion as well. Change champion will maybe have his eyes or her eyes more on the adherence to the process rather than the bigger outcome, and team members as well. So you see different people will be interested in different things, but discussing about the two, typically in a workshop at the beginning or at the end of a workshop, is worth involving as many people as you want. When I talk about the adherence, is how is the life with the new process? You know, what is the behavior that we want to see that people are doing with the new process that they were not doing before? So let's deep dive a bit into this PPI. So process performance indicator. This is the word we use quite a lot. So a PPI, I've seen some teams calling them API, activity performance indicator, but I'd rather stay at the process. So very often I've got the feedback, teams are finding, all right, this is just more an administrative task. This is creating more paperwork. This will just slow us down and nothing else. And if it's done wrong, definitely, if you're making it too complicated to track, or if people are using it as just an opportunity or one more forum to criticize the new process because they decided it wasn't for them, that can backfire. But when it's done right, so that means it's been kept simple. For example, you want people to submit their expenses before the 20th of the month, and we just need to measure if people have done that. Like, very simple. This could be automated. We could generate a report once a month that says, all right, these are all the people that submitted their thing on time and all the people that submitted late. You know, just interesting information to have to sparkle the conversation. And then at some point, it will not be relevant anymore. People know how to do it. You've measured something. Are people using the right template? Is the meeting organized in the right way? Is the agenda followed? And all the things. You can just have a little tick box for each process running through, or each project running through a process. And when it's not relevant anymore, you can move on. Or if you've automated it, you don't. Let's say it's a dashboard. You can just create a new one, maybe a bit more sophisticated, or just move on to another topic. So when it's done right, it really shows the benefit. It triggers the right conversation, because people will tell, right, I didn't follow this process because, you know, I ran into this problem and then I couldn't submit on time. That's why it's late. You know, and all right, okay, interesting fact to know. If it happens too often, if it happens regularly, this is a good opportunity maybe to simplify this governance or the decision making. So the whole goal is to trigger small and frequent continuous improvement of the process. So really get into these habits of discussing the process, what works, what doesn't work. The right cadence we found was, depending on the maturity of the team, but once per quarter, every 3 months, works quite well to do a process review and have a look at your PPIs. You probably need to assign someone in a team to follow them up. Usually the change champion, the process champion, who is the right person to once a week take a couple of minutes to actually ask people around, all right, did you submit, did you use this project? Or usually they're aware of what's going on, but was it done right or not? So just like the checkboxes in a simple Excel file or something online. So that's the PPI, which I think are very important, at least to have a discussion, so more on the qualitative point of view, but also if you're starting collecting data, you can have a very quantitative discussion. So when it comes to key performance indicator, this could be interesting for other people, but I always find that having the conversation with the participants of a workshop, with the people doing the process on, all right, what is the business goal that we are helping achieving with this process? Because sometimes processes obviously are quite far and quite remote from a business objective of being the greatest company in the world, whatever, in whatever domain. So they may seem a bit too distant sometimes from the people actually doing the job, or they don't really care because that's not they're not incentivized to care about the things. But on the flip side, sometimes it really triggers the right conversation to know, all right, this is the thing that are important to us, and this is what this process will help us achieve, especially when you're talking about big end-to-end processes or fairly high-level process where you will reorganize a team or reorganize a department or a business unit on the way they will operate. Having this line of sight between each tiny process that you have and the strategy and the associated business goals that are linked to your strategy can be a very healthy conversation, a very good thing to know. And as a process owner, the process owner will be mainly the role that is interested in seeing a convergence of, are people following the process, and does it create the right outcome? Does it deliver the right results? We could imagine a scenario where, okay, people are following the process, but it creates bad results because the process is too complicated, or people have great results, but nobody followed the process because it's too slow, they don't care, or they are not trained, or the system is not adapted. So in an ideal world, we want to measure and progress to the two, watch out the two ones, the two things, but let's be conscious that it's not the same audience. I have a little game for you guys, very small audience, so I think it will work well. So the question is it a PPI or a KPI? So are we measuring the adherence to a process, or are we measuring the outcome? So I will open the, you can speak if you're not unmuted. So the first question is, the first metrics, the first thing we measure is the number of briefs submitted before the business case project gate. So imagine a product development process, they have some gates that they need to validate, and they need to count the number of briefs that have been submitted before the project date. So is that a PPI, we are measuring the adherence, or is that a KPI, we are measuring the performance? Someone want to try its luck? Yes, so is it a KPI? Are we measuring a result? Are we measuring an outcome?
What do you mean by brief?
Project brief, like a letter or a PowerPoint that explains what the project is about.
Okay.
Sorry. So this one is a PPI, right? It's here we are measuring the adherence to the process. So out of all the projects that are going through my pipeline, there's a step in my process that says that we need to submit a brief, a project plan, and yes or no, it's been done. Number of budgets allocated on time.
PPI.
Yeah, PPI as well, performance. So here again, we are not looking at the delivering a budget helps us making the right saving and the right decision for the business. We are just looking at if people did it on time. So did they follow the process that says it needs to be Q3, third week of Q3, they need to deliver their budget. So PPI. Opportunities lost versus, or opportunities won versus lost. Imagine a sales process. We are counting the number of opportunities we had, how many we won, how many we lost.
I would suggest a KPI.
Exactly. So this one is definitely an outcome. Okay, we are following the process. We are doing our sales pitch. We are doing our onboarding, everything. And then as a result, we lose or we win or lose. So it's not really related to the process itself. So it's a KPI. Number of briefs by type, by origin. That's an interesting one.
KPI.
Yeah, KPI as well here. It's not really related to the process, right? There's not a step that says, all right, you need to have X project brief from X origin. This is just a fact that you can count. It's more KPI. Are we generating enough brief on enough? Average time to finalize a project. That could be both. This is one that are a bit in between. To me, it's more a KPI. But again, this will strongly influentiate the adherence to the process because that's a KPI. I mean, it's definitely a KPI because it's not adherence, but the process is directly linked to that. Do we have the right process to make project on time? Number of customer feedback session by product. So to me, this is a KPI. We've done the sessions, but the next one, which is very related, is a PPI, so customer feedback session organized before the business plan project gate. So here we are saying, okay, we follow the process, and here we are counting the number of customer feedback session by product is more a KPI. All right, we have this target as a business that we should have more customer feedback session for each product, and let's make it happen. So you see, these are all kind of things that we are counting in an organization, or that I've seen in real life, and they are both very interesting to measure, but they're not going to they're not going to get the interest from different people.
For me, anything that is a pure number tends not to be a KPI, because for a KPI you should be measuring against something. You set yourself a target, therefore generally it should be in percentage or number per number or something like that.
Exactly.
I mean, it shouldn't be a raw number.
Exactly. Yeah. The PPI, that's a very good point, Greg. The PPI usually counts. Very often they are just counts.
Yeah.
Out of the X iterations of this process we made, X or Y we're following that. KPIs, you will be all right. We want, if I go back to my customer session, we have this target of having 2 customer session. So 100% of product have two sessions. You get the idea.
Exactly.
Yeah. So so that's about KPIs, PPIs, very broad strokes. Keep it simple if you're getting started. What as an action for you, what I would suggest is next time you're creating a new process in Skore, next time you're organizing a little workshop, is to think about one PPI, one KPI with the team, explaining them the little concept of measuring the adherence, measuring the results, and having them. There's no right way. Does it have to be done before starting mapping the process or after? Both have values. If you're talking about how is the life with a new process, you may want to have this conversation before you start mapping the process, before getting in the weeds. But if you map the process, then you can maybe identify something very, very pragmatic, like, all right, again, the budget or the project template, the project scope must be submitted before the gate. All right, that would be a good candidate for a PPI because it's super easy to measure. We can almost automate it. And you don't need to worry too much about it after that.